Okay. So, oh, it's presented documents that aren't there. Let me go find one that has presented documents. Here we go. Oh, but that one has no audio. Okay. Let's go to this one. Oh, for goodness sakes. Okay. I'll show you a presented file in a minute. Okay. So your jobs are always going to be organized this way. The very first section will be general job files. In that group of files, you will have the information as far as the name of the job, dictation, text appearance, your display set, which one you used, your Digitran notes, which is, for those of you who have been with us a long time, it's the tag file. I'll show you what it looks like for those of you who are new. I should be able to open. Okay, yep. Okay, so here's what it looks like. This is basically what is being written in the notes entry and notes display window in the Digitran portion of the real-time screen. So every time you mark a speaker, it marks the time that you used that speaker and what speaker it was. And then further on down the line, the date, the actual time of day, and then this 520 and 80, I'll be honest with you, I don't know what that is. I really don't know what that is. Interesting. I'll try to find out. I don't even know how I'd find out, but I'll try. And it tells you when you started recording, when you stopped recording, how long the recording was. And a lot of people like to view this file because of the timestamps. They might want to include the timestamps every once in a while, and it shows them the timestamps for every speaker, so that helps. And for any note you type in, it also shows for that as well.
Adria, I would venture to say those last numbers have something to do with like the stream and stuff like that.
Oh.
So Mojo Jojo that we don't know about.
Right. Okay. Yeah. That makes sense, Mitch. That makes sense because all of these others I can explain, but those not so much. And since they're right after the time, it does kind of make sense that would be with the stream, doesn't it?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
For those of you who are wondering what is the stream, the stream is a file that SpeechCAT creates, and that the stream file ties together the place of every individual word in the basically in the DRA file, and that's what gives you the right click ability. So if you're in Scopus and you are maybe during your last proof, and so you're not necessarily listening to all the audio because you're reading it for punctuation and context and all that, and you get to some place and it just doesn't make sense. So you think to yourself, well, I better listen to that again. So if you left click just to tell SpeechCAT, okay, here I am, SpeechCAT, and then you right click to start the playback, it should start it within 2 lines of that specific area. And it is our stream that allows us to do that. So Michelle and I were discussing that these numbers here in these last two columns may very well be associated with the stream file for locating text. So that's that. Okay, the case, meaning what case you have selected. Normally I don't use case, so none is selected. And then my style, which you can see for this job was 32 lines per page, court with index for Microsoft Word. And then the next section we go down to is dictations. I want to back up a minute. We very rarely do anything up here. We don't normally mess with these general job files at all. In the second section, dictations, this is not a real good example of what you might see at the end of a job, because at the beginning of a job, you might actually see only one or two of these. But by the time your job is over, you may have 10 or 11 or more. It depends on how big the job is. Because if the job is very big, then you may have 20 or 30 or 40. Because every time you go into scope, every time, SpeechCAT makes a backup of the scope file as it exists upon entering. Why do we do that? We do that to save your booty, because there are times when we don't see this often, but every once in a great while we do see, somebody will be typing along and accidentally hit Control A, which selects all, and then they'll backspace and poof, everything is gone. Everything. And because SpeechCAT by default saves every 30 or 90 seconds, it's going to save pretty fast. So if you don't immediately exit out, then chances are it's already saved by the time you realize it's happened. And the thing to do to make sure that you're covering your butt is to save often when you're not exiting and re-entering. But what I like to tell people is, if you get up for a break, you just want to go walk around, go for a walk, get a cup of coffee, whatever, exit out of scope. And when you come back in, re-enter. Scope remembers the last place you entered. And so it's very important to help you go back in rather quickly. That is the nature of SpeechCAT. But we'll make all of these backup files, and if you've got a really big document, what ends up happening is you'll have all these backup files. And just so that you know, if you scroll over to the right, you can see when the backup was created, when that particular file was created. This helps a lot when you've got 20 or 30 of them and you make a mistake and you want to go back to the last one. Not the first one, because all your work's not going to be in the first one. It's not going to be in the fifth one. It's going to be in the second to last one. The last one is the one that you lost the data. So there'll be nothing in there. And so that's when we would generally say, okay, well, what we're going to do is we're going to hide the current file and go back to a previous one. I draw your attention to the hidden column. You will see that the very first one says no. That means that this is the current file. The other one says yes. That means that was your first file, meaning that was the dictation file with no changes. It's virtually impossible for me to do a dictation and not make a single change. I just so love to do drag and correction, love to correct. and I like to scope. And so when I see errors, I just start fixing it. And then I remember, oh, wait, I'm not supposed to fix it because I need to send it to my Scopus class. And so I have to kind of smack my hand and rush out of it really quickly. Otherwise, I'll just sit there creating briefs and making notes in my accuracy journal, making corrections, having all sorts of fun. So if you ever find the need to hide your current file because it got all messed up or it totally disappeared, what you would do is you would highlight it. And I want to draw your attention up to the top of the screen where you will see these three little icons. They're like pieces of paper with sunglasses. And the first one says hide, unhide, dictation. Now, another reason that we come in and hide the dictation file, and this is a big deal, you guys, so pay attention. If you are in a job, and let's say you're 3 hours in, and it's kind of hot and heavy, and it's really no time for a bad thing to happen. But of course, that's when a bad thing happens. And let's say your text stops dropping into the screen. And most likely it's because your microphone is sopping wet and needs some time to dry. Or who knows, you know, it could just be a short in your mask. It could be that the lawyer walked by and separated the mask from the USB device. It could be anything. But being a professional, you never want to let them see you sweat. So you just pay attention to your mask backup track. You see that it's still bouncing up and down. So you know you've got your audio recording on your backup mask track. So just keep going. Keep going. And at the end of the job, when you get home and you have like, you know, maybe half of the text there, but not the other half, you can come into ShowFiles. You can hide this file by clicking on Hide, Unhide Dictation. So now both of my dictation files are hidden. And so what that is going to do is it's going to make SpeechCAT think that that the job has not been dictated yet. But hang on just a minute because it's still showing scoped. Shouldn't be showing scoped. It should show dictated. Once I hide the dictation file, it should show dictated. And then what I can do is I can click on transcribe and use the voice backup track, always transcribe in scope, and click on OK. And what that does is it takes your backup mask track and it turns it makes text utilizing your voice backup track. And so that is a really, really wonderful thing because it allows you to still get all of your text without having to redictate. Because I don't know about you, but I am not about doing anything twice. So if Dragon's going to do it for me, then I'm okay with that. But I don't want to have to redictate something I've already dictated. And so that's why with AudioScribe, we always ask you to have a mask with 2 wires and 2 mics so that if one decides to take a nap or go on vacation or completely die, you are not dead in the water. You still have another channel recording your voice. And of course, you have the room. You're recording the room. And that's all good and fine, but Dragon's not going to make text from the room. Dragon makes text from your voice. And so if you do not have a voice track, then you're going to either redictate or Some people type, which, I think I'd rather go to the dentist than type a whole job. And I hate the dentist's office. So, this gives you a way to still get your work done the way it should be done. And that is with your on-the-job dictation being transcribed by Dragon Naturally Speaking. Now, because I am extremely impatient, I discovered that I can actually edit on the fly even while Dragon is transcribing my text. And so I do misbehave occasionally and do a little bit of editing. Normally, I would tell you not to do that because it could confuse Dragon or upset Dragon in some way. But the truth of the matter is our program does allow you to do it. And it has never caused me problems when I've done so. So, and at this point with Dragon translating for you, you can go and do something else. You do not have to sit there and babysit it. Some people like that. I don't do well sitting down and watching it and doing nothing. Now, one of the things that is interesting is if you're watching it and you're just reading it without listening to the audio, like you could be doing now, watching the screen, it's a really good time to notice where your problems are. So you'll say, oh, okay, I see that. I see what must have happened there. Because for me, over the years of watching Dragon work with many different people's voices, I have come to the point that I can tell you, I would say 85% of the time, I can see a misrecognition and tell you what word or words are supposed to be there. And for those of you who have been using it a long time, I know Diane and I have often had this conversation, and I know she feels that way. Becky, do you agree? Do you feel that way too?
Yes, I do.
What about you, Mitch? I would say that the more you do it, the more you, and especially with your own work, I do occasionally see other people's work when I'm dialed into their systems and helping them with an issue. And I can tell you that half the time I say, ooh, I bet that's this. And I have to listen to the audio because I just want to know. And they're like, wow, you're right. And that's only newbies, because people that have been doing this for a long time will say, yep, I knew that's what it was. And so you'll get to that point as well where you do know what should have been there. And often I can even figure out what happened. The majority of the time, I got lazy. No doubt about it. There's some times where I get tongue-tied and it just, the words did not come out right. So it's completely my fault. I mean, it's almost always completely my fault, but there are times when I say, well, I totally understood that, Dragon. Why didn't you? And that's when I go and say, okay, if the word was, I said raised, but I said it really fast. And so Dragon wrote race, not even raced, but I said raise, and Dragon wrote race because I didn't say the D. And I'm horribly guilty about that. I do that a lot. And I noticed that. I noticed my own drops. I noticed my own failures. And it's not until we start listening with a mind to what is our failure and what is Dragon's failure that will truly start being as accurate as we can be. I can tell you that there is one truth that is universal, and that is that the people that generally swear that they said it clearly and Dragon didn't get it never progress, because they're too busy pointing their finger at Dragon. And Dragon does make mistakes. Absolutely, Dragon makes mistakes. But the more you train Dragon, and the better you get at training Dragon, and the better you get at your own diction, the more you will see that even when Dragon gets something terribly wrong and you hear yourself, you can say, yeah, I could see where Dragon might have thought that. So now I'm going to hit save, and I'm going to exit out now that I've retranscribed. I have to wait till my session is saved. So now if I go back to view, show files, see I have a brand new dictation file. Now, another thing that I'd like to point out is, if you're wondering what is the name of this file as opposed to other files, you just need to spread out your columns, like your sound files, for instance. Here's the name at the end with the extension. So here, 2018-3-15-09-5420-001. That is normally my room mic. As you can see, over here on the left is the description. And the 02, see, because they're gonna have the same name except for the -00. And if you have more audio channels, I'm just recording 2 audio channels on one track. And that's why this file, the 001, is so much larger than my voice track, because this one has two channels in this one track. This one only has one. The location you can even spread out if you want to see where it is. There's a lot of information in this portion of SpeechCAT. The thing that we ask you in regards to show files is just be cautious. If you delete a file from here, especially if it's a really large file, like a sound file, it can actually skip the recycle bin altogether and just go away. There's generally a setting somewhere that says, you know, what's your file cap on sizes to be recycled. And I'm not sure where that is, but I'll look for it for you. But there's so much information here. We just ask you to be cautious. If you want to view your RTF file, you can do that by clicking here, Open Dictation File. It'll open it in Microsoft Word or WordPad if you don't have Word. And there it is. There's your file. I can open this one even though it's hidden. And you can see the difference. I did correction, and I did some editing on this one. So you can see that, and I used conflicts on this original one. So there you go. So these, if you ever want to open these files, which I don't think you would ever That's mostly things me and Michelle do. We use this one. If you want to open a sound file and listen to it, you would click on one of your sound files and click on Open Sound File.
Interpreting. Put simply, a juvenile adjudication should not be used to establish an element of an offense charged against an adult.
I have been dictating from live court video that I found on the internet to try to get some sort of real life things going for my Scopus class. And so that's what that was actually, I think, Ohio Supreme Court I was listening to. And they have awesome video. And so that is ShowFiles. There are a lot of other things you can do. For instance, let's say that your audio file, let's say that you were on a job, and this actually has happened once. You're new. It's your first day on the job in a new courthouse. Only they forgot you were going to show up. So they erect this pathetic, substandard table for you to sit at today. And so you, being afraid to say anything because you're new, you sit at it and you set up all your equipment and you're off and running. And in the middle of the day, an attorney comes over and leans on your table, and it collapses, and your computer gets thrown to the ground, and your mask gets ripped out of the computer, your USB devices are flying. Oh yeah, it's big fun. And so your job closes because your computer dies. So you're able to get the computer back up after a little while. You go into the job and your audio will not play. You come here and you see that it has a size, which means it's there, but it won't play. It won't play because Realtime closed out unnaturally, meaning you did not click on the X in the upper right-hand corner. It just killed. And what that does is it prevents SpeechCAT from writing the footer onto the audio file. And so what it needs to be repaired. And so you would come in here and you would highlight the first one and you would click on Repair Wave File. And you would say Rebuild. And then you could click on Play to Listen. As you can see, it slowed down my audio, probably because it didn't need to be repaired. So I'm going to say cancel because I don't want to keep the new one. But if it would have been a good repair, I would have clicked on keep. And everything would have been fine. It would have replaced the old one that would not play with the new one that would. And so that's how you listen to your audio files. There's one other thing that's very relevant that I'd really like to show you. And that is regarding the present document. Once you create a present document, once you go to present, if you try to go to scope, it's going to say, oops, wrong one. So if I try to go to scope, it says, this job has been presented already. Would you like to open it in the word processor? But the reason I'm trying to open it in scope is because something in the word processor did not look right. And so I'm going to say, no, I don't want to open it in the word processor. I want to go to View, Show Files, and I want to hide the present file. So If you point, you'll see that the last one with sunglasses is hide the present file. I'm going to click on it, and it says the selected presented document is the current present file. Would you like to hide it? Yes. Now it says hidden. Yes. So I'm going to close. Now it says scoped, and now I can return to scope. I can even load the speech engine if I want. And then I'll look at everything and say, oh, okay, well, you know, I need to add this and that and the other. And then once you have everything done the way you want it, you can present it again to the word processor. It will not delete the file. That's the wonderful thing, is it doesn't delete the files, it just hides them. So that if indeed you wanted to go back to the file that you hid, you can do that. So that is ShowFiles. It's a very powerful part of the program, one that a lot of people don't even know anything about. It's really very, very useful for a few things that are important. Does anybody have any questions about ShowFiles? Alrighty, moving on. I wanted to show you guys about something called Secure Case. Unless you become a very high-ranking military court reporter, or you accept grand jury work, there probably won't be much need for this feature. But if you do grand jury, you will need it. So I'm just going to go over it real briefly. If I go to options, there we go, real time, and I click on use secure case. E is my external hard drive. To use the secure case feature, you must have an external hard drive. And you must set it here. Now, watch what happens. See up here where you see current history courtroom list, and that's all you see? I'm going to click on apply and OK. And now you see secure current. Now, this is what secure case is all about. When you utilize secure case, the only difference is everything about the job is on the external hard drive. This is done so that you do not have to wipe out your computer every time you do a grand jury job. Because for those of you who don't know, after you do a grand jury job, if you cannot prove that nothing of that job ever hit your hard drive, they can force you to erase the hard drive and start again. We found that very disconcerting. And so we thought that it was necessary to make a feature that would facilitate everything for that job being on that external hard drive. The minute you disconnect that hard drive, you will no longer see secure current. And what a lot of people are doing now that they have this feature is that they will take the job in secure, the grand jury job, and then they will leave that external hard drive in a safe or in a locked file cabinet That is the requirement. Different states have different grand jury requirements, but they are almost all very, very stringent because they don't want anything getting out. And so secure current works exactly like everything else. You still use the new job to create the job. You still select the style. You still go to real time. Everything else is the same, except for the fact that the minute you disconnect that hard drive, you will not see secure current, the secure current tab. It's good to know this because should you see the availability of a grand jury job, you now know that this is something that not only can you do, but you can do it to their specifications and make sure that you have the right software to keep any of that information from hitting the hard drive. So that's secure case, not complex at all, just writes to a secure location. So the other thing that I wanted to show you guys today is just how to send a real-time feed. And in real time, it's very simple. We have a product called SpeechCAT Viewer, which is free. You can download it from our forum, and you can give it to as many people as you like. It's completely free. You install it on their computer, and then when it's time for you to send them a feed, you ask them to start up SpeechCAT Viewer, and then the receiver must always connect first. Remember that. So you have them open up SpeechCAT Viewer, and you tell them to click on Connect. And then once you've got your Dragon Naturally Speaking user open, you can click on Connect. Both of the Connect buttons look exactly like this. Normally, we do have to check the IP address. And to do that, we would go to Real-Time Feed and Real-Time Settings. And it will give you your IP address. My IP address is right here. And then you will ask the recipient for their IP address. They will give you their IP address. You put it here. You give them your IP address, and they'll put it on their side, and then you're ready to connect. Especially if you're connecting via internet. If you're connecting via serial cables, then it's a little bit different. If you select serial, there's more information, like what is the COM port, what is the line speed, the parity, the data bit, the stop bit, handshaking. We don't generally use a phone number. That's for captioning. And so you have both options. I don't think a lot of people are using the serial cables anymore, mostly because computers are not coming with serial cables anymore. Laptops are not. Desktops may still have a serial port, but it's been a while since I've seen a laptop with a serial port. And so once you've got the recipient's IP address set and your IP address set, apply and OK. Make sure they are connected, your recipient, and then simply click on Connect. And of course, it's not going to connect right now because I'm not trying to connect to anyone specifically. But if I were, it would connect. And it would let me know that it was connected. it should let me know momentarily that it cannot connect. Well, it didn't give me a notice that it cannot connect. But normally, I guess it would tell me that it was connected. And so it's as simple as that. We have instructions for sending a real-time feed that are more detailed for those of you who, are a little iffy about it, and it has pictures and stuff. And if you remind me via the Skype class, I'll be happy to send those to you. It's really not difficult to send a real-time feed. There are people that send real-time feeds in other ways. I am not versed well in those other ways, so I'm not going to talk about them. And that's the real-time feed. And that is the class, my friends. That is the course. So at this point, I'm going to set you free. And I want you to go out and utilize your SpeechCAT and enjoy it for as long as you have the subscription. If you have questions, please don't hesitate to ask them via the Skype chat. That way everybody gets to benefit from everybody else's questions. And of course, as always, I'd be very happy to answer them. We invite those of you who are new to SpeechCAT to begin subscribing to SpeechCAT if you'd like. And I hope that you enjoyed the class and that you got a lot out of it.
Wonderful class. Thank you so very much. It was tremendous.
Oh, thank you, Jean.
Hey, it's Susie. Can I ask 2 quick questions?
Absolutely.
I know I'll probably never use it, but curious with the secure current, how big of an external hard drive would you recommend?
I think really a 1 terabyte or 2 terabyte drive is really
Nothing less.
quite fine. Oh yeah,
Okay.
you could go with less.
Okay.
You could go with less. You could probably go with a 500 gig drive or even a 250. But 250, I wouldn't go any smaller than 250 gigabytes.
Okay. And then with the speech viewer, can you do that like on an iPad?
No,
Okay.
not yet. But
Okay.
that is something that we are hoping to accomplish. Now, there is something for an iPad. I think currently we're having some problems with it. It's by Case View, and it's called IC as in cat, V as in Victor, net. ICV net.
It's currently not working and it's on the development list.
It's on the development list. Okay, that's not working, so never mind. But it was working. I don't know what happened, but we're having problems with it right now. But ICV net was working, and we're trying to get that working again. We'll probably try to get that working first. I don't know. I might just scrap it and go straight to having them try to create a viewer for the iPad, because a lot of people like using the iPad to send real-time, because they can bring their iPads and say, okay, well, you can watch via my iPad,
Right.
and that way they can watch it, but it's not theirs, so they can't really save it or keep it in any way, which is actually a pretty good thing.
Right. Right.
And so, yes.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else?
I just want to remind everyone, Adria, that we're doing seminars on the Monday and Tuesday before convention. So
Yes.
if you're wanting to sign up, please do. We'd love to have you. And even though we're focusing on day 1 on court reporting and day 2 on CART, both days have information that will help everyone, because on the CART day, we're going to be covering real-time rules and conflicts. So it's a great way to meet other SpeechCAT users, network, get your name out there, and also learn so much more than the agenda covers, because great questions are always asked and you'll learn more than you ever expected.
That is so true. That is so true. Take advantage of it. It's the only real 2-day packed seminars that we do, other than for the one that we do in Louisiana now. Hopefully annually, we're going to try to do it again this year. And if we continue to have good responses, we will certainly continue to do them. But it really is unlike any other seminars that we do because of the crowd that shows up. There's always new people. There's always people that have been with us for a long, long time. Don Scott is one of our customers that never misses seminars. And, you know, everybody knows how much he always has to offer. So you can imagine that, Don times at least 10 more users with experience really ask good questions, bring good things to the table. And there just is no substitute for pre-convention seminars. So if you can, do try to sign up and join us for that.
This is very exciting. I have another question.
Yes.
So for the CART, for the second day where you're going to focus on CART, is this going to be CART using the full SpeechCAT product, or is there going to be an emphasis on SpeechCAT?
That's a great question. And that has everything to do with how fast and how far the programmers get between now and then. So the programmers will add all of the new features that we've requested for CART captioning first to SpeechCAT. And then what we will do is have them bust out that section for SpeechCAT.
Is SpeechCAT up and running right now?
SpeechCAT is up and running, but it's got some bugs.
Okay.
And so until we get some of the bugs worked out, there's just some things missing from it, quite frankly, that we did not know that CART providers needed.
Okay.
We knew that captioners needed those things. We didn't know that CART providers needed as many of those things. So it really just depends. It really depends, because the captioners are pushing hard for us to break captioning completely out of SpeechCAT, because they don't want to deal with things that are for court reporting. And so, but I want our product, I want SpeechCAT to have everything. So my priority will be to put everything in SpeechCAT, and when time permits, then I will have them bust it out into SpeechCAT Cap. And those two products will be merged into one.
Wonderful. Thank you.
You are welcome.